As a lot of people know, Donald Trump has kind of been flirting with war with Iran recently, and the evangelical kind of sphere right now is disturbing the hell out of me. This is Shane Vaughn. I don't even know how to lead in. Just listen to this. This is a Trump theologist, a Trump pastor, famous Trump pastor.
When Netanyahu rose up lion-like, he is the foreshadowing of the true lion that is getting ready to rise in the land of Israel. And I hope you're hearing me tonight. And that lion that is soon to come of the tribe of Judah, Jesus Christ, Yeshua the Messiah, the Bible said when he returns that his vesture will be dipped in blood. He's not coming back to play. He is coming back to bring the rod of correction over the enemies of Israel.
Okay, so just to give you a little bit of explanation about what he's saying here. In Shane Vaughn's theology, he believes that Jesus is going to return after thermonuclear war between Israel and the rest of the Middle East. When a nuclear war breaks out in Iran, that's when Jesus comes back. And for that reason, he and many others have been trying to facilitate a nuclear war between the United States and the Middle East. So when Shane Vaughn hears about this Israel stuff happening and this Iran war and everything, he literally sings about it.
What wonderful days these days are before the coming of the Lord. What wonderful days these days are before the coming of the Lord. What wonderful days these days are.
Tell me you don't know how to sing on key without telling me. These people are absolutely lost. Literally, there's a silver lining behind every mushroom cloud with these people. For real. Listen to the rest of this clip from him.
Israel. He's coming to devour the prey, to destroy the tyrants, and to defend Mount Zion. What you're seeing right now tonight, my friends, is not, hear me well, a flesh and blood warfare. The missiles that flew on Friday the 13th were not just iron missiles.
Friday the 13th? Did that happen on Friday the 13th?
But they were spiritual projectiles.
Oh, that was the end. That took me by surprise. Guy believes that thermonuclear war is a good thing. You know, there's a lot more to his belief, too. I don't know if you picked that up at the beginning, what he said about Judah.
He is the foreshadowing of the true lion that is getting ready to rise in the land of Israel. And I hope you're hearing me tonight.
In the land of Israel. That's important. Keep listening.
And that lion that is soon to come of the tribe of Judah, Jesus Christ.
The tribe of Judah. Let me explain. He believes that the Jews that are in Israel right now are not the real Jews. He thinks they're fake Jews who are masquerading as real Jews. The real Jews, when, I don't know if you guys remember this from the book of Daniel, but the Nebuchadnezzar comes in, destroys Israel, and captures a bunch of slaves from Israel, brings them back to Babylon. And then I think within 30 or 40 years of that or something, I forget. Yeah, Cyrus the Great comes in from Persia and frees the Jews, like takes over the Babylonian Empire, frees the Jews, and they're allowed to go back. That's actually factual. That's not just a Bible story. Well, Shane Vaughn believes that the tribe of Judah is the one that was captured but the other like 11 tribes, Asher and Benjamin and Levi and whatever the other ones are, Reuben, he thinks that they were still in Israel when the tribe of Judah was taken to Babylon. And when that happened over the next 30 years, the other 11 tribes traveled up over the Caucasus Mountains and became Caucasians, became white people, and then sailed to the British Isles as Anglo-Saxons, and then founded America. He thinks that the founding fathers are Jewish, are the real Jews. He thinks the ones that are there now are fake, and Americans are the real Jews. And the real Jews are going to go in and take Iran, destroy Iran with thermonuclear weapons, and rebuild Solomon's temple where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is right now. And you can see this belief system. I mean, I've explained this a few times recently, but, you know, I feel like it's important to kind of establish the context here. You can see this belief system shining through when these politicians talk about this stuff. Listen to this. This is the U.S. State Department spokesperson, Tammy Bruce.
The pride of being able to be here and do work that facilitates making things better for people, and in the greatest country on earth, next to Israel.
The greatest country on earth, next to Israel. What?
Country on earth, next to Israel. It is, and it's an honor to be able to make a difference and to be able to speak in this regard with an administration that I love so much and that I feel genuinely represented by.
Those shoulder pads, though.
It's a real honor.
And anyway, yeah, you can see it shining through in a lot more ways than just that. Listen to Michelle Bachmann.
I adore Donald Trump. I love him.
No fucking really?
I think he's a fabulous president. But this is the one thing a president can't get wrong. According to the Bible, according to Joel chapter 3, a president can't get Israel wrong. They can't. This is the one most decisive issue that will either take down a presidency or it will lift up and create great promise for a presidency.
Lift up spiritually, lift up supernaturally, because those who support Israel will be blessed. That's the belief.
And so when it comes to Israel and Iran, this isn't Ukraine and Russia. This isn't any other war. This is...
Oh, that's right, because she didn't support Ukraine in the Ukraine war. She supported Russia, or just kept her mouth shut completely. I don't actually remember what she specifically said about it. I do have some clips from her on it, though. Oh, I remember now. Oh, yeah, I do remember. Yeah, this is literally immediately after, like, Russia invaded Ukraine. You guys remember that? Like, the following week, literally everybody supported Ukraine. If you weren't there for it, you weren't paying attention politically or whatever, if you supported Russia, you kept your fucking mouth shut. Literally nobody supported Russia in that situation because it was such a clear-cut case of Ukraine being correct. And in the middle of that extreme support for Ukraine, Bachmann comes out and says this.
This smelled like the biggest fake I had ever seen from the very beginning. When the news media got their little talking points and they had to start talking about this, it all sounded fake. And now we're finding that everybody folded their cards. They're going to go home.
She says, this is immediately after Russia invaded Ukraine. And she says, now we're finding out that there is no war. She is such a ridiculous human being.
That's not a war. This is a fake. This was a fake. That's my opinion.
Point is that she supports Israel in literally waging war against a sovereign country, but didn't support Ukraine. The clearest cut case, or the clearest cut example of an innocent bystander that there is. Ukraine didn't do shit to anybody. They're just over there bebopping along, living their lives. And Russia comes in and invades.
Great promise for a presidency. And so when it comes to Israel and Iran, this isn't Ukraine and Russia. This isn't any other war. This isn't Iran or this isn't Pakistan and India. This is completely different. This is a spiritual battle. And in this moment, we have an opportunity. Every nation on earth has an opportunity. June 16th, they'll have an opportunity to cast a vote at the UN. Do they want a two-state solution, divide the land and scatter the people in violation of Joel 3? But here's what President Trump can do.
Okay, wow. That is an absolutely insane thing to say. If you guys are unfamiliar with the region or whatever, that means having an ethno-state. That literally means living in an apartheid state that is designated for one ethnic group, where another ethnic group is not allowed to live there or has second-class citizenship. It's like living under segregation in the United States. Two-state solution is not a solution. She didn't say that she wants a two-state solution. She's actually decrying a two-state solution, fascinatingly. Two-state solution is what moderate, middle-of-the-road people, or even Republicans, say. They want Israel to control an independent state. I say we need a one-state democratic solution. But she's saying she doesn't want a democratic solution. She doesn't want a two-state solution. She wants Israel to control the entire region in one state, control the whole thing, Fertile Crescent, the whole 9 yards, all of it. She wants Israel to have dictatorial control over the Arab states in the region, including Iran. Oh my God, dude.
But here's what President Trump can do. Israel is at her greatest hour of need right now.
Israel doesn't need jack from anybody. They started this war with Iran, not the other way around. Don't let that slip by.
Every nation on earth should thank Prime Minister Netanyahu. We should all kiss the ground and be so grateful that Benjamin Netanyahu is Prime Minister and that he had the guts to take on this greatest evil terror state.
We should kiss the ground? What a bizarre thing to say about a foreign country's leader
that has defined plans. And so the United States, in my opinion, we need to be decisive. This is not a negotiation. It can never be a negotiation, because when we're dealing with evil in the world, the evil everyone understands is Hitler and what happened in World War II. There was no negotiating with Hitler in World War II.
Wow, dude. She's saying that Khomeini is Hitler. Well, the difference between Khomeini and Hitler, at least one difference, is that Hitler had overt plans to take over all of Europe, or the entire region. Iran has shown no signs that they intend to take over anywhere. They control almost 100 million people compared to the United States, 300 million people. They control 100 million people in their little area, and they've shown no signs of taking over the region and locking the doors and committing a genocide the way that Hitler did. That is wild for her to have said. However, I'll tell you who is committing a genocide, very much like what happened in World War II. Netanyahu. I say that without a hint of irony, 100% seriously. What Netanyahu is doing right now is disturbingly similar to what happened in the lead up to the Holocaust in Germany. The shit that he's doing, he's ethnically cleansing Gaza, the Palestinian region. And on top of that, he spreads the lie, Netanyahu spreads the lie that Hitler got his ideas about Jews from the Arabs. That is not true. That is a lie. It is Holocaust revisionism from a leader of a so-called Jewish ethno-state. Absolutely f***ing evil. You know, people say that Palestine has lost 50,000 people. Hard to count. Hard to know exactly how many people have died. Getting a little off subject here. I just want to really draw out how truly deeply evil this person is that she's praising. 50,000 Palestinians dead. We can't count. We don't know how many, because there are too many dead, and the counting is hampered by the fact that people can't even get in there. But I'll tell you what we do know. We know that when Netanyahu came to visit Donald Trump in the White House, right there in the press room, right in front of everybody, Netanyahu and Trump sitting there in front of the cameras talking to each other. And Trump says, we need to move the 1.7, 1.8 million Palestinians in Gaza to another area. There were 2.2 million before Netanyahu's genocide started, or his ethnic cleansing. There were 2.2 million. Why did he say 1.7, 1.8 million? Does he have a more accurate number than we do? Netanyahu is an evil human being. Anyway, she's literally praising a modern version of Hitler and saying we should kiss the ground where he walks, presumably.
The evil everyone understands is Hitler and what happened in World War II. There was no negotiating with Hitler in World War II. There needed to be a decisive defeat of evil. We're in that moment now with Iran. Iran needs to be decisively defeated. I adore.
Why is it your fucking problem? Why is it anybody's problem? They don't have aspirations to take over the region or any of that shit. They haven't given us any indication of that. They haven't even given us an indication that they're trying to build a bomb. They haven't tried to build a nuclear weapon since 2003. They had a nuclear program that they ended in 2003. They submitted to UN inspections of their nuclear facilities to make sure they were just enriching uranium to a level that was useful for nuclear power plants, but not for a nuclear weapon. And they passed every inspection with flying colors. Never any problem, never any question. Nobody ever wondered if there was ever a bomb being formed until the moment that Israel started attacking them and asked Trump to join in. It's like really disturbing to listen to these people spread these lies about Iran when we know for a fact that they see a silver lining behind these mushroom clouds. We know for a fact they're looking for an opportunity to start thermonuclear war in the Middle East to bring Jesus' return faster. This is Rob McCoy, a televangelist. He's an evangelical pastor, knows and hangs out with and talks to Marjorie Taylor Greene and David Barton and a bunch of other really, really influential people like that. And he's about to try to manufacture consent for an Iran war.
Here's where Iran's present-day nuclear doctrines meet Iran's ancient theological doctrines. Pay attention. Some factions within Iran's clerical leadership believe that the Mahdi's return will be hastened by global destruction and war. These radical scholars teach that apocalyptic war is a necessary requirement for the Mahdi to be revealed.
That is literally exactly what he believes.
In this view, Iran's struggle against Israel and Western civilization is part of the divine plan for the return of the Mahdi. This theological doctrine makes a nuclear-armed Iran unthinkably dangerous. But if Iran's leaders believe that nuclear war would hasten the return of a long-prophesied Messiah figure, they would actually be highly motivated to start a nuclear war regardless of the consequences. Iran's apocalyptic clerics have a powerful incentive to pull the nuclear trigger. The fulfillment of ancient prophecies and the establishment of a global caliphate. That is why Western and Israeli policymakers must take theology into account as they assess the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran.
You can't tell me that he actually believes that this is a problem when he is actively advocating for, shooting for this exact thing. He wants thermonuclear war in the Middle East to bring Jesus back. And he's standing here complaining about it. I don't know if it's accurate in Iran, or I'm sorry, in Islam, in radical factions of Islam, that they need a nuclear war for whatever. Maybe. Probably. I'll give you that. Probably. But Iran, the Iranian leadership, is not and has not been trying to produce a nuclear weapon. They just haven't. There is zero evidence for it, and I'm not going to give in to this manufactured consent that they're trying to create. When I see hard evidence, I'll believe it. This isn't our fucking business, okay? Israel started a fight. Let them fight it. To hear Rob McCoy say something so brazenly like that is absurd. And to listen to somebody like this guy say the exact same shit about his beliefs.
Are we witnessing a major turn in the calendar of prophetic history? It certainly seems that the stage is being set for the end of this age. And while we cannot know the day or the hour of the return of Christ, we certainly can know the signs. And
thermonuclear war.
Among those signs is the one in which Scripture refers to end-time events that involve the modern-day nations of Turkey and Iran and Russia as they unleash their vengeance upon Israel. Boy, it certainly seems that the key players in the final divine drama are taking their places on the stage.
He's excited for the day that the world descends into thermonuclear war, because that's when Jesus comes back, a silver lining behind every mushroom cloud.
And we as Christians have a choice. We can view the end time events through the eyes of fear or the eyes of faith. The eyes of fear see little reason for hope and ample reason for anxiety. But the eyes of faith see history inching closer and closer to a new era, a heavenly destiny.
Absolutely unglued from reality. Absolutely insane. And we should all be disturbed by that. Here's another prime example of these people being completely out of their heads and believing that Israel is some secret, special, prophesied whatever, some thing that everybody needs to support or else, or there will be spiritual consequences. These are politicians that are saying shit like this. This guy on the left, I believe, is Representative Andy Weber, a U.S. representative.
Your thoughts about the possibility of the U.S. becoming more involved in the Israel-Iran conflict? I know there's not all Republicans are on the same page. Real quickly, your thoughts.
Well, I think we should. You know, Zechariah 2:8 says that Israel is the apple of God's eye. And so we ought to make sure that nobody destroys Israel.
He's giving a religious justification for political policy in the United States. And that policy is defend this country so that we can spark a thermonuclear war. I'm the biggest proponent of democracy out there. I love democracy, and I think that it does a lot of good for humanity. It's the best system we've got right now. I would love to see every country be a democracy. But, you know, when democracy was kind of formed in Greece, I believe it was a different country, but in its earliest days, they had this thing where everybody would vote for a person that they thought was most harmful to democracy. They would vote on that person to be exiled to some other place, some island in the middle of nowhere, some random country somewhere else. And they weren't allowed to take part in democracy anymore because they were destroying it. And I really feel like we need to bring that back. What was that called? Ostracism, used in early Athenian democracy. I think it was in Athens, Greece. Once a year, citizens voted on whether to hold an ostracism. If the vote passed, a second one was held a couple months later, where each citizen wrote the name of a person they believed posed a threat to the polis on a shard of pottery, an ostrakon. The individual whose name appeared most often, provided a quorum of at least 6,000 votes, was exiled for 10 years. Unlike criminal sentences, their property and citizenship remained intact, and they could even return after exile, often resuming political roles. Ostracism began under Cleisthenes around 506 BC, with the first recorded held in 487 BCE, and was last used in 417 BCE before disappearing. Ostracism. I didn't know it was called ostracism. So in essence, ostracism was a non-judicial, democratic, cool-off exile designed to protect the state from potential tyrants or unusually powerful individuals. Curious how that compares to modern tools like recall elections or cancel culture? Wow, what a thing to ask. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. What about cancel culture? Cancel culture is a modern, informal social phenomenon that, while very different in structure, echoes ostracism in certain ways. collective judgment, social consequences, no formal trial, preventative logic. Ostracism was sometimes used to prevent tyranny before it happened. Cancel culture often attempts to preempt perceived future harm by removing influence. Interesting. I mean, cancel culture isn't even real. It's a fictitious term invented by the right to complain about how they're being excluded from, their friends decided not to talk to them anymore because they're literal fucking Nazis, because they've come out as literal Nazis. Thinking about somebody specific here, Mark Robinson. I'll talk about him later. The point is, we need to bring ostracism back for real. Why did we stop doing that? I would absolutely vote for Donald Trump to be exiled to some island somewhere and have his stupid phone ripped out of his tiny little hands for 10 years. I love it. I love everything about that.
So we ought to make sure that nobody destroys Israel, nobody hurts Israel. You got to love our brothers and sisters in Israel. And you know this, Jody. Israel is he's the country that has the most different nationalities. They're very, very fair to everybody that comes.
What are you smoking? It's an ethno-state. There are other nationalities there. If you can prove your genealogy or your association with Judaism, your strong association, then you're welcome. But Arabs are not welcome and are treated as second-class citizens, and non-Jews are straight-up second-class citizens. They do not belong in Israel in their eyes. There's nothing fair or open or whatever about it.
Iran has been trying to destroy them forever. And it's high time we said, look, no nuclear weapons. This is the deadline.
Jesus Christ, dude. These people really need help. Like, seriously. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. That's absolutely nuts, man. Absolutely nuts.